Guess we'll just dive deep into it. So you know, so this is Wealth Beyond Money Talk. And when we spoke a couple weeks ago, you said you spent like a month and a half mostly away from devices, work, noise, just being in nature, silence, and communicating with the Big Island, with the ʻāina. I mean, we could all use some of that medicine, right? So
Yes.
I mean, you said you felt like it was time to come out of the cave. So what did that time in, connecting with yourself, what did that time show you? What did you learn? And what do you feel like now that you're coming out? What are you asking of yourself now?
So I like to do that twice a year. I like to take at least a month in the spring and in the fall to go into my own personal silent retreat. And that's something I've been doing for maybe 4 or 5 years consistently, going into that place of silence and pretty much just being with nature. And what it does for me is it allows me to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the communion with my inner self, my light self, and nature, into emergence, kind of like emergence of the nature that is life flowing through me, life flowing through everything and everyone. And it just carries on into everything I do on my day, even after I leave from doing that time of retreat. Then I come back and I carry through my daily activities, everything I'm doing. I'm in that space of silent stillness. And the coming out of the cave is because I have been throughout pretty much my whole life very much an inward person. So I've liked to be in what I call that cave. However, I'm realizing that, and I've had that feeling many times before, but I've kind of retreated back to the cave. But I
Right.
feel that we're going through such a phenomenal moment in time right now, with the changes that are happening in the earth, in society, in everything. Every single aspect of our lives is shifting. So the call is, we all need to be present. We need to bring our presence into the world, so that in that togetherness with other humans and animals and plants and minerals and the whole, all of us who share this earth, we can steer into this new way of living, this new earth, this new beingness. So that's
Mhm.
what it means for me.
I mean, the big thing like that I'm hearing you saying is, first of all, you speak in my language, which is so refreshing, because working with athletes and executives, a lot of times people are not as open to understanding that connection between us as people and the world around us, including the world underneath our feet and above our head. And and we talk about, being aware. I mean, like just had, the 48th episode of Kilauea erupting. That was yesterday. Also, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. Did you hear about the meteorite hitting near Boston? That there was a meteor that actually hit near Boston.
I did not hear that.
Yeah, and then last week you had the earthquake on the Big Island. And so all of these things are not normal occurrences according to our lifetime that we've been on this planet. We haven't seen these many natural events happening, simultaneously. And it's the kind of thing that really points out, we talk about being still and connecting to your light self, your higher self. It's I just imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong. If I ever say anything that doesn't resonate, I always beg people to correct me because I like to learn. But I imagine when you're in that stillness, especially after building inertia of staying in that stillness for an extended period of time, that when you come back into the world, when you come back to the noise, that you're better at discerning the voice of your higher self versus noise. And I think when, a lot of times now with the internet and all kinds of messages coming at us, notifications on our phones, I can't even go online without being assaulted by pop-up ads because there's always some information coming at us. I think it makes it difficult for people to discern what voices to listen to. And I just imagine that that time that you spend by yourself actually gives you a really, really big advantage in your day-to-day life when you're interacting with the world. Like you said, you carry it into everything you're doing. And so think about how many people have never sat still, like never sat still for 10 minutes. They've never actually quieted the story in their mind. And I mean, you're talking about how much of your life that you've lived your path inward. And, I think about what you do in your private retreats and holding one person at a time, like staying close to them and really taking care of them. And I imagine a lot of those people come and they don't know stillness until they meet Aarya. They don't even know what that is, and that's probably a mind-blowing experience. And so, what has that way of living, that way of being Aarya Joy, what has it taught you about the kind of healing that, high performers, people that come to see you, what are they actually looking for beneath the surface that perhaps they don't even know they don't know?
That's such a beautiful question and thought. The first thing that comes through is that, speaking of that stillness, we don't know that we need that stillness, because especially high performers are always in the go, 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 being efficient, being achieving, being manifesting. So there's a lot of outward movement, even if they're very organized and willful and everything. There's always a movement in the outside world of creating, right, and manifesting or whatever it is. So I think that coming here, what they really come to is the fact that when we're on retreat, what I've learned the most is that I don't provide any particular process or technique other than what we could say, my life is my message. The way I live, the way I hold the day, and the way I am with every person that comes is really what is being transmitted. So through all the years that I've been doing that stillness, even if I'm in the middle of a lot of noise, even if I'm in the middle of the earthquake, I'm
Right.
still absolutely calm. And I'm in a place of silence, that it doesn't matter what's happening outside. What I noticed recently is everything can be noisy, clinking, clanking, and I still find that I'm completely silent and calm. So what a big percentage of the guests that come to retreat tell me is that, let's say we're sitting together having a conversation like you and I having, or whatever, we're having lunch, we're walking, they're just feeling the calmness, the peace, and the love. Because when they come here, I tell them, this is just a place for you where you're just going to experience love. All I'm going to do is just share this love with you, this love that's within me. I'm just sharing this love. So the one main feedback that I get is that when they're sitting with me, it's like, oh, they can breathe. They can come into a place of a moment of stillness and relaxation. But I don't need to say it. It's just by that, what's it called, entrainment, or that place of, resonance, kind of like the tuning
Yeah.
fork, when you have the
Yeah.
tuning forks. So that is a very deep aspect of what it is to do the retreats, that people are not necessarily, they didn't come because of that, but when they're here, they feel it. And it's like going, oh, yes. And then that allows them the capacity. We've talked about this, which is what you, like we offer similar things. is for them to find clarity. If they're looking for clarity of mind for whatever situation they're in their life that they need to make a decision, they're in a joint moment when they need to choose this or that, just being able to be in that place of just being allows them the clarity to be able to see where they need to go. So it's kind of like it's giving them a very quick and efficient pit stop to recalibrate, and so that they can do whatever they need to do when they go back home.
I mean, that's exactly it. And, with a lot of the things that, Alicia and I have learned through studying the ancient ways in Hawaii, it's, understanding energy. We have so many different people, so many different ways to interpret energy. The electricity that's keeping the lights on, that's energy. So you can go to the drugstore, you get the little 5-hour energy, the little drink. So there's a lot of different ways that we interact with energy in our day-to-day lives, and the narratives we have around that word energy. But, I just look at it even through Western science and understanding that, Western science has proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transmuted. And so the way I learned it from my kumu is there's 3 types of energy, the way the Hawaiians understood it: creation energy, transformation energy, and completion energy. But I always like to put things into what I call NFL, normal functioning language. And so the way I see it is there's the 3 types of energy are being energy, doing energy, and having energy. And what you're describing is reconnecting to your being energy. And so think about this, like in most of the world, when people ask you what you are, let's say professionally, 9 times out of 10, the answer you're going to get is what the person does, not who they are.
Yes.
And so, if that's the narrative going on in their mind, when I was playing football in college, I came up with a mantra that I used to perform better. And I used it in a lot of other situations, academically, socially. And the mantra is, the mind commands, the body obeys. The mind commands, the body obeys. So if I say I'm a sculptor, then the brain is telling my body to do something, not be something. and this is where, when you're in a high pressure world, people who are in a position where a lot of people are looking to them for answers, looking to them to lead them. So they're constantly not only having to deal with their own thoughts and what they believe they are, which is doing energy. So they already got it mixed up, but they got to think about what other people are doing, or what other people need to stop doing, or what they need to instruct people to doing. And, the wheels are just turning, the pistons in their engine are just going all the time. And they think that that's just the way the world is, because they believe I am what I do. But it sounds to me like what people experience when they come to the Big Island to experience your energy is they start to clarify their discernment between who they are and what they do. And when you have that type of balance, when things are pono, and in Hawaiian, for people that are hearing this conversation in the future, pono just means in its natural state. And what it is that stillness you're talking about is our natural human being state. We're not human doings, we're human beings. And I think a lot of times high level performers, I mean, trust me, playing in the NFL, I can relate on a personal level. This feeling that you always got to be doing something. And people don't even realize that talking is an action. The more, if you're always talking, I can presuppose you're not listening. And if you're not listening to me, you sure as hell ain't listening to the voice in here. You sure as hell ain't listening to to the voice of God, if you know, or what, you know, source, the universe, whatever communication that the environment's giving you, like a meteor almost hitting Boston, or an earthquake at a magnitude that doesn't make sense, is, are you being still enough to get the message? And to me, it's like your unique energy, your unique wisdom. It sounds like that's your path, is to connect people back to that truth. It's not really that it's simple, but when you're living in a world that's constantly talking to you, constantly noisy, all kinds of things coming at you, it's not easy to understand. And that's why I think people need to come see you. And then on top of that, the way the Hawaiians lived, you know, before Captain Cook, before the Westerners came, you know, they felt a deep connection to the island. That was just normal. It wasn't something you had to escape life to do. That was just life. And so that's why I'm kind of jealous that you just get to live in that 24/7 all the time, living in Hawaii. So, you know, it's like when people, you know, people come to your retreats, you know, a lot of them I imagine are in transition or overwhelmed by something and needing that recalibration to get realigned, and needing to be cared for, because I imagine a lot of them are constantly caring for other people. So when a guest comes to see you in that state, you know, what do you sense they're really trying to return to? Because they probably think they're coming to a place they've never been before. But you and I know that deep down, they probably are trying to return to something. So what do you think that is?
I realized that we all wish to be loved and to love, and that we are living in a time where we are very isolated in the Western culture. There is isolation, disconnection, and loneliness. There's a lot of loneliness. And I think that what every heart is looking to return to is that wholeness, because we want to return to that wholeness of love, and not feeling lonely and not feeling isolated from life, from ourselves. We're isolated even from ourselves. It's like we're connected to all the technology, but we're disconnected, right? We're disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from other human beings in the deep connection, like we could say the indigenous people have. And we're disconnected from nature. We're disconnected from the earth. So I think that the deepest longing is to return to the connection to our being, to nature, which is what gives us life and sustains us in this earth, and to each other. However, many times we're looking for that connection outside in the doing. We're thinking that the doing, the getting more, the achieving more may bring us back to that connection. But we forget that the connection first needs to start inside. So that love that we're looking for, that perhaps we're looking in a companion or in something else, or in an object because we think that object is going to fulfill us. Well, it comes to show the way we are right now that it doesn't fulfill us, right? So
No, not at all. No.
what we're really looking for, even if we haven't seen it in words, or if we haven't spoken, I feel every time I get a guest, my common thread is that everybody's looking for that love, and that we kind of forgot that the love is already here, and that nature already provides that. So I think it's about, again, going back into being able to reconnect with ourselves, so that we can reconnect with nature and with each other in a, you said this in the beginning, in an authentic, spontaneous, non-scripted, non-polished, pre-created way. Just our hearts, your heart, my heart, connecting, laughing, enjoy, without self-censoring, just being vulnerable, being open, being willing to allow life as it is showing itself to us, so that we can really drop all the masks. We're putting masks all the time. We're wearing a mask all the time, depending who we're with, what we're doing. So I feel like here, even though I don't say it like that, the invitation is drop the masks and just have permission just to be yourself.
Yeah.
And tap back in, so that I can come back, because of that longing that we have to be loved and to love.
I mean, that's exactly it. And that's a big part of, I think why we connect the way we do, and why you connect to the island, and why people come to you to feel love. I mean, you think about it, you look at the license plates in Hawaii, it says the Aloha state. And, most people, I think pretty much everywhere around the world, they're familiar with the word aloha. Even if you don't speak English, first of all, the word's not English, it's olelo. And so, but everybody knows the word aloha, and they connect it to Hawaii. And so a lot of times we look at it as hello, or it means goodbye, or it can mean love directly, but there's a much deeper meaning to it. So it's like, you know, Mai Kumu from Hawaii, I love that guy. And he's always talking about his uncle and what his uncle used to say about how the Hawaiians were God's favorite people. And, you know, you say that to people who are not from Hawaii, and they're like, oh, come on, what do you mean? You think God likes Hawaiians better than everyone else. And what Uncle used to say was, the Hawaiians, we didn't have any metals. There's no gold. There's no oil. God had to have loved us the most because all he left us was aloha. And that's the energy of the ʻāina. That's the energy of Hawaii. And that's why I think, especially the Big Island, I've read books and learned about people referring to it as the healing island. And it's really speaks to that love that you're talking about, that's what people want to feel. And then working, over the years with people who are transitioning out of professional sports, these are modern day gladiators. These are people who, are going into battle. At least that's the mentality of an athlete. Male or female doesn't matter. It's that part of us, that cool, that masculine part of us that we express. And as an athlete, we tend to lean on that a lot. So we're kind of in this doing, asserting ourselves mode. And one of the questions, when I talk to particularly NFL players, when they're struggling after sports and they transition, like I was when I came out, there's one core question that I like to ask that pretty much will give me energetically everything I need to know. And I'll say, you made it to the NFL. That's you're 1% of the 1%. So few people get to do that. I'm just curious, what were you running away from that led you there? What were you running away from that led you to the NFL? And that usually stops people because they never really thought of it like that. I just know from my own personal experience growing up, there was a lot of challenges, and it was a lot of it connected back to what I perceived as a lack of love at home. I know that my parents were doing the best they could, and no matter how much older than me that they are, they're all deep down still somebody else's child too. And they're doing the best they can. But I believe that I just wanted to get as far away from that reality as possible. And so I looked at like my favorite athletes, my favorite musicians as like, okay, I want to be them, not me. And that was the spark that led me to the NFL. And everybody who's ever reached that level of sovereign success. I'm not talking about generational wealth like the Vanderbilts or the Rockefellers, nothing against them, but I'm talking about somebody who pulled himself up by the bootstraps and made something of himself, accomplished something. I will be willing to bet, if I had to flip a coin, I will bet that every single one of them has something they were running away from. that led them to this level of manifestation and success. But when you're never still, they never actually sit and think about that because it might have been 30 years ago. And they think, oh, well, I'm so far away from that, it can't be true anymore, not realizing that that's what's got you feeling like, I need a reset. I need something different. And because you forgot that that pebble was in your shoe, but all of a sudden you can't ignore it. You got to call Aarya and you got to get to the Big Island as soon as possible. And a lot of people just miss that. They miss it. And I think, the work that you do is just no performance, no mask is really what it is. Because, when somebody's looking for like, I always love it, especially young people when they say, well, I'm just trying to find myself. I'm just going to travel and experience the world and find myself. And I said, you know what? I could save you a lot of time standing in TSA security lines, traveling the world to try to find yourself. I can help you out right now because I know where you are. They said, well, where am I? I said, right there. You're right here. Where are you going? There's nothing out there. And it's like, well, if I just do something, if I could do something, then I'll have the husband or wife I need. I'll have money. But remember, being, doing, having, we're not human doings, we're not human havings. So perhaps what they're searching for is what you're offering, that stillness, so they can get back to their being. So it's like, yeah, those masks that people wear, a lot of modern leaders, they know how to perform. They know how to put on that mask. They know how to put on that brave face, produce, keep moving, So from your experience in the work you've been doing, what have you experienced? What have you seen? What happens when someone finally has permission to stop, be still, be cared for, and just be themselves? What have you seen? The people who come in and their mask is like sewed onto their face, and you finally get them to drop it. What do you see from your perspective?
Oh, wow, that is so beautiful. It's fascinating when people arrive, how they are, like we see every day. And, every day there's a little more transformation. So what I see is that the light starts coming into their beingness. It's kind of like there's this opening, as if you're sort of cracking an egg, and then there's this
Right.
opening. And the fact that they're able to relax, to rest, to just be, and to cleanse. I find like the part of the cleansing is super important, right? To kind of like, let's say we take a shower every day for our physical body, right? You take a shower, you brush your teeth, you clean your body. But here we're cleansing the mind, we're cleansing the heart, we're cleansing the emotions and the body. Then once we take out all that trash, the mental trash, the emotional trash, we kind of like dump the trash for a little bit. I just start seeing their face start changing, a smile starts coming back, they start laughing more, they start being more spontaneous. I get people a lot out of their comfort zone. Part of the thing is to get you out of your comfort zone, so that shakes you up a little. We gotta shake you up a little from the regular habits, from the regular doing, from what we're used to. So it's a little bit of getting out of the comfort zone. And then I just start seeing their face expression starts changing. So these are just kind of like the physical aspects that I start seeing. Their body starts relaxing. They sleep at home. Many times they can't sleep, or they need, so they start sleeping. Somebody told me once they slept 12 hours, and they're like, oh my God, I hadn't slept a full night's sleep so deeply in, I can't remember, 10 years or something like that. So, and then that's what I see in the body, but I start seeing it also in the way they're starting the day, the way they're presenting themselves calmer, quieter. Sometimes when they arrive and we're in the car for 1 hour, they talk nonstop.
Yeah.
By the third day, we're in the car and there's silence. They're just looking at the nature. They're connecting. They're starting to connect. So I see an absolute transformation, even within 3 to 5 days. And when the person leaves, there's again this big smile in their face. Their eyes are bright and they're feeling full. Most of them tell me, my heart is overflowing. I'm leaving overflowing. But the main word they use is my heart, which goes back to what we were saying. What everybody's looking is love, and to be able to be connected back to the feeling in the heart of your heart being alive. So I think the main thing I notice is that people start feeling their heart alive again, feeling that joy, feeling that they can. Sometimes people come from transitions or things and they're very depressed or anxious or run down. I don't know what to do. I have this, whether it's divorce or career or whatever. By the time they're leaving, they feel that they can go back home and they can navigate whatever they're going back to. So they feel a new strength, a new clarity, and a new, we could call it purpose or inner capacity or knowingness. Yes, I can actually, I've tapped into that part of myself that allows me to know I can go back home and I can take care of whatever I need to take care of. And that is so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times, especially when you think about people who have gone through divorce, or maybe they lost a loved one, maybe they were married for 30 years and they lost their spouse. And to me, it always goes back to stories. And it's like, I have a story of who I believe I am. And we all define ourselves in different ways. Like, again, a lot of times people define themselves by their professional title. Some people define themselves by their position within a family. So they may see themselves as a mother, or may see themselves as a brother, or define themselves as a husband or wife. And but what happens when you lose that wife? Then all of a sudden, you start to question who you are as a human being. Like, I don't know who I am anymore. And that's literally what happened to me when I left football. And I've seen it, and a lot of guys, everybody deals with these transitions in their own way, and eventually they'll decide on the story, which is usually that mask, that, oh yeah, everything's fine, but inside, behind the mask, and by them acting and doing things a certain way, a lot of times the rest of the people around them don't even see it, but inside they're feeling that loneliness because they're still unsure about who they are. I remember working with a guy who's 60 years old. He played in the NFL long time ago. And he said he still has dreams of him seeing through his face mask and play. He still, at a deeper level, believes he is a football player, that's who he is. And at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I came into this world naked and screaming, just my mother's son. That's it. And at the end of, and all the other stuff is a story after the fact. Is a story after the fact. Is, oh, he's in second grade. That's a story. Said, oh, his voice is changing. He's getting older. That's another story. At the end of the, but I'm still that same baby that was crying naked. I'm still the same person. We just collect stories over time. So what I'm hearing you describe is like when somebody's going through trouble, divorce, lost somebody, lost their job, lost their business. What they're saying is, the story I believed doesn't fit, and I can't seem to connect to another narrative. And when that happens, it's like a record player. People younger than us probably don't know what records are, but records spinning on it. It's like in their minds, it's spinning. Like, they're playing the same old song. I'm a football player. I'm been married for 40 years, but when they look around, it doesn't fit because their wife is gone or their jersey's gone, and that's where that tension comes in. And the thing is, a lot of times, like, my wife, Alicia, she always talks about the emotional self. It's like your best friend. It's like, dogs are man's best friend, right? So it's like your dog, your emotional self. And all the emotions you feel, it's like a dog can't talk, so it's going to communicate the way in other ways, the nonverbal ways. So every emotion you feel is just the dog communicating with you. So like when you're feeling joy and love, it's like the dog's and he's young, he's licking your face and he's happy, right? And then like when you're angry, it's like the dog's going, "Arr," and that's just a feeling. And I remember my dog, she was barking at something outside because he's always barking at something. And that's Alicia's baby, Mika. She loves the dog. But I'm over here heating up some leftovers or whatever in the kitchen, not paying attention, and all of a sudden, Mika goes, boom, boom, barks at something outside, and I jumped. Like, whoa, because I wasn't expecting that. And I'm like, Mika, stop, be quiet. And Alicia's like, why are you yelling at her? It's like, that bark, I can't stand it. And she's like, the only thing she knows how to say is, I love you. If you don't like what she's saying, that's your interpretation. So even that heartache, when you lose somebody, you lose your business, or you lose whatever, the dog, whatever you're feeling, the dog's saying, I love you. And it's up to us as the owner, the human being, to decipher what that feeling means. And the way I always looked at it is like everything in life is dichotomy of positive and negative, light and dark, day and night, man, woman. So that love that the person that comes to see you thinks he lost, then and now is replaced by this darkness, this heaviness, the dog's barking or maybe whimpering. It's actually still the same love. It's just that when the person's wife or husband was alive, they were on the positive side of the dichotomy. They were living in the light. Now that they're gone, you can't have day without night. You can't love, you can only grieve something at the level at which you loved and cherished it. Because if my wife didn't mean anything to me and she died or left, I wouldn't feel anything. I can only feel something in relation to the level in which I felt love. And so when someone's going through something and what you're telling me is what they really want is love, see, that's your unique wisdom. That's because this is what you do, is you recognize that in people. And even though they're so used to, the story, I bet that on that first day in the car, they're talking about the story about problems usually, right? They're talking about problems because they're so focused on what they believe they don't have, not understanding that what's left behind is actually your clue, your indication that you still have that love. You still have it because it was never out there. It was always in here. It's what you felt inside as you were serving people with your business, as you were spending time with your family, as you were playing football. That's what you're feeling. And essentially, you're just reminding them, reminding them, hey, you've always been that as a human being. Love is what you are. That's why they call making children making love. So, you know, it's something you said that stayed with me, that the big island for you, like you could connect people to themselves anywhere. You could do retreats on Mars. Now that they got rockets that go to Mars, it don't matter where you are. But you talked about how the big island is like a bonus. It gives you the container so you don't have to create the whole energetic space by yourself. So I'm curious from your perspective, especially living there in North Kohala on the Big Island, what does the ʻāina, the land, hold for most people that they may not even know that they need?
Hmm. Purity.
Mm.
There is a there is a sacred purity maybe rawness, right? We're talking about Kilauea, the volcano erupting. The ʻāina here is very raw. The elements are very, very raw, while at the same time being very embracing. It's almost like it's raw, so it shows us its power is so powerful. The wind is here in North Kohala is so strong and so powerful. The fire it's all so powerful, but at the same time it's so embracing. The word that's coming is like that tigress mama, right? That has her cubs. She's fierce, but she has so much love. Is so much love, and at the same time this power. So I feel like the land here is like that. It's just this raw power, which we can feel through the elements, but at the same time there's this pure innocence and pure embrace of that love, which is oozes. I feel like it oozes. Oh, and this is super important. That love is expressed through the beauty, right? Everything, wherever I look, I see beauty. So the land, it just blooms and blooms and expresses itself through beauty. And of course, beauty can be relative to whoever's looking at the beauty, which it reflects us. However I am inside is what I see outside. That is a true situation. Nevertheless, the land here is so pure and so beautiful that in a way it sort of overcomes that. For example, I hike a lot into the Pololu Valley, and I observe a lot of the visitors that come. And I notice how the moment they come into that scenery, everybody goes like, wow, this is so beautiful. So to me, the beauty that the land here provides is that direct expression of divinity and of love. So the divine love, the divine beingness, the love that is we are, that life is concentrated in the beauty of this land. And the beauty is so magnificent that it goes straight into the person, and the person goes, oh, wow, that is so beautiful. And just in that moment, they can tap into their true self through that beauty. I think that is a big aspect of it.
I mean, it's what, my kumu, the way he explained it to me, about the way the Hawaiians understood the way life works. It's what, I mean, in English, he called the law of correspondence. And people are familiar with it, as above, so below, as within, so without. And the big thing that I'm hearing you talk about is essentially the law of correspondence, in that when they see that beauty, when they experience that beauty outside of them, they couldn't even recognize it if it wasn't already inside of them. They wouldn't even, it would be alien. They would be like, okay, what is this? Where's the McDonald's? Where's the billboards? Because but in order for them to even have that reaction, it's a reaction, not a conscious interpretation. It's automatic. That to me means that whatever you're interpreting outside of you, that you're taking in through your five senses, has to resonate with what's going on inside. And so to me, it's like the beauty of the island reminds people of the beauty in themselves. And that's really what it is. It's like, no matter how much you do, no matter how much money you make, no matter how many, trips you take, how many vacations, you're never going to be able to do that. You can only experience it by being still enough to recognize it. And, a lot of times when people are in the financial world, high finance, when you're always working, you're always doing something in order to have something, and you're never really just being still. A lot of times we think, oh, if I just do more, then I'll have more, then I'll be okay. And it's that's not how Mother Nature works. We got to be first. And once we're aligned with the beauty that is you, then everything you do has got to come from that place. And so your being energy gets transmuted, or gets focused into what you do. So it's like everything's energy, right? That's what Einstein taught us. Everything's energy. And so when you think about emotions like love, like gratitude, like joy, it's just the energy that is your being in motion, energy in motion, emotions. But if you're always in motion and you're asserting, well, it's going to be hard to recognize when that emotion that's going through you is actually that same beauty, that same aloha, that same love that you're seeing when you're standing atop Haleakala, or you're, hiking down in YPO Valley, and start to recognize, at one point in time, this is just everyday life for the people that lived here. And Hawaii is the 50th state in America, right? So why don't people feel like that in Wichita, Kansas? you know, why? Well, the landscape looks different than it did for the original people, but it did feel like that. And as a matter of fact, underneath all of the stories, underneath all of the flashing lights and the billboards and the notifications on your phone, if you got still and quiet, you might see that beauty right wherever you are, you know? But of course, if you can't see it there, go visit Aarya Joy, Hawaii, Hawaii, and she'll show you how to be still. So that's really it. But it's like on your website, because you aren't totally foreign to modern day technology. So on your website, the way you speak, there's, talk about love, beauty, nourishment, non-judgment. And, especially when I think about football players and other high performers, that might sound soft to some people, but from what I see, that's and that's why I invited you to have this conversation, is to me, that's an extremely powerful, strong form of leadership. So talk to me about your understanding of the strength of aloha as a strength.
Mhm. Well, if your strength is based on what we in our world, in our Western world, call success and the doing and everything, what happens when you don't have that? What happens if one day you wake up and all the money's gone, the house is gone, everything's gone from you, all the stuff that you have accumulated in the doing and the making, right? And the having. If all the stuff that you've accumulated in the doing and the having is gone, what are you left with, right? That to me is the question that's coming. Then where is your strength then? If you don't have all of that, what is your strength at that moment? To me, it's like water. Water is so soft, but it's the strongest element, because drop by drop, it will change anything, right? It takes the shape of wherever it goes. It goes around obstacles. When it finds obstacles, it can go to the smallest little hole, but it's so soft. If you're holding water, water is soft. It's you wouldn't say it's strong or powerful or that strength. However, through that softness, through that flexibility, through that malleability, is so strong. So, or if you see those very advanced martial artists, in the martial arts that are like, Aikido and those martial arts, the more still they become, the stronger they are. The softer they become, the more quiet, soft, and unassuming, the stronger they are. Anything that comes towards them can't take them down. And it is because they have been able to tap into that softness, that stillness, because stillness is soft, and that quiet aspect of the beauty, the love, which has been termed as soft, feminine, maybe not so much, but it tends to be what survives everything else. After everything collapses, that's still there.
Yeah, 100%. And it connects to Western thinking, even though most Westerners may not see that on the surface. And when you think about like theory of evolution, Charles Darwin, survival of the fittest, it's like, why did some species go extinct while others, like the crocodiles and tortoises, they're like dinosaurs. They haven't changed in millions of years. So what is it that makes it so that certain forms of life are everlasting and other ones, eventually go by the wayside? It's adaptability. It's your ability to adapt to the environment no matter what happens. So going back to your example, it's like, okay, let's say you were a billionaire, you lost everything. Can you adapt? And without love, without aloha, it's going to be tough, because if you believe what you do is who you are, and then all of a sudden you can't do it, then the unconscious or subconscious belief is I'm nothing. If you believe that having all this money or having all this real estate or whatever, it defines who you are. If you lose that, then the belief is I'm nothing. But I could promise you, if I went and asked your parents about the day you were born and you didn't have any of that, they would not say you were nothing. You didn't believe you were nothing. And so where did that narrative come from? It comes from experience. It comes from the influences in our environment. And, if you grow up and, when you grow up, not even talking about childhood, but like even just evolving in a career from an intern to an executive. If you grew up professionally on Wall Street, you're going to have certain beliefs about how you define an individual's value. And if you're defining somebody else by those criteria, then you're automatically going to define yourself that way. But when you get realigned, connected to your higher self, connected to your light, get back to just being still, you start to hear that inner voice that you couldn't hear over all the noise, and realize that, I'm a lot more than what I'm doing or what I have. And if we don't stop and take care of those things, then you never fully appreciate the things that you do or have anyway. It's just, you almost take them for granted, and they become blah. Like, the person who has so much that they can't, no matter what gifts or blessings they receive, they can't seem to find joy in it. And it's because they never sat still enough to really understand what joy is, because it doesn't come, you're not going to get it from outside. It's already in there. And it's just about being still enough and aligned enough within yourself to appreciate that. And so that's why, again, I envy, silent retreats. I think I got to do that. Like, I've never done this. I've never been silent that long. But I think I need some of the medicine that you're delivering 100%. And now that, you know in our last conversation, you said, life doesn't seem to want you to keep doing this by yourself anymore. what you're teaching, what you're sharing with people, and that collaboration, you know, I think it feels like part of your next chapter. So, you know, thinking about kind of being in hermit mode a lot, for a lot of your life, what has changed in Aria that now makes collaboration feel aligned, in bringing this to more people in whatever way that pans out.
What has changed?
Mhm.
I think the awareness of um, the need we have right now to reconnect, for every human to find connection, to remember that love. So if I can be a mirror, if I can be the mirror that shows you the beauty, the love, the joy, the magnificence that you are, if you're going to see that through me being the mirror, and that's going to spark within you, wherever it's going to turn on a switch inside of you that is going to allow you to tap into that. Maybe if it could be just that the seed gets planted or the seed starts sprouting, depending where you are, where you're going to see that or receive that or be able to, right? Then kind of like, the domino effect. So if I can be the mirror, and by you being with me, seeing that mirror, that sparks within you your remembrance of you being that. And then you go home, and then your child receives the blessing and the benefit of that. And then the ripple effect grows, right? So we are at a time right now where, yes, I was doing it one-on-one, I was already seeing that. However, by getting out of the cave and being able to share that with more people in a shorter amount of time, then the ripple can go faster, bigger, and that just exponentially amplifies the blessing or the light that can be shared through that.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, coach I had, he talks about how his uncle would always say, everybody's life is going to serve as an example of how to be or how not to be. And that's it. And so a lot of times, especially in this day and age where people are always performing, whether it be online or in front of a group, they're always telling, they're teaching by telling you. But, as a parent, as a mother, it's like you could tell your daughters what to do all day, but they're going to probably more than likely go based off of what you do and how you are rather than what you say. It's the example you set. And what I think is, my connection to the island, my connection to Aloha is, in my opinion, I imagine the collaboration, it's sacred timing, it's or in Olela, it's Ho'omanawanui, sacred timing. And with all the things that are happening in the world, again, today is June 2nd, 2026. And within the last week, we've had a meteor hit, almost hit the east coast of the United States. We had a 6.0 magnitude earthquake on the Big Island, which it's happened a couple of times, but it doesn't typically happen. And at the same time, Kilauea is erupting nonstop. If that doesn't signify sacred timing, then people aren't still enough to hear the message. And I think that what it is that you're recognizing that you can't keep your unique magic as huna anymore. And huna in Hawaiian means secret or hidden wisdom. It's like that. I mean, your name is Joy. That's your name. Like it's so you're to me, it feels like that's your path, is to show people how to experience joy. And I think more people need it now more than ever. And all you have to do is look around. Just look around. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy how, you know, being still and alone can bring you back to yourself in such a profound way that other people are self-medicating, jumping from relationship to relationship, self-harming, all these different things, as if that's going to change. Well, all you need to do is just, whatever you're doing, stop. What if that's the answer? Well, I got to keep working. Well, maybe is that working for you? you know, and I think that what it comes down to is whatever your huna is, your hidden wisdom, it's time not just for you as a being to come out of the cave, but that magic, at least what other people perceive as magic, to you, is just you being you. It's time to let that genie out of the bottle and let people understand, like, hey, I may not be the biggest, strongest, most imposing figure, but if my name is Joy and Aloha is my superpower, that's pretty profound. I mean, again, just going back to like how we met, I was chanting quietly at Hapuna Beach, doing my best not to perform, and still somehow you heard me. And, since then, that connection has just kept moving through the land, the ʻāina, retreat, family, shared vision. So, what do you make of the way life brings people together when the timing is right?
I love that question. And before answering that one regarding the timing, yes, I agree that something that changed from your previous question is the timing, right? Right now, I'm more prepared to be able to be that mirror and to be able to radiate that at a bigger scale than before. So it's all perfect timing, right? So what I make about the way things happen, like our meeting at the beach, is that aloha, that is the universe, the I guess this thing is, it goes to confirm to us the highest intelligence, the cosmic intelligence that is really what or who runs the universe, which permeates everything, which is that love, and that cosmic intelligence that is pretty much in everything and everyone, is so seamlessly, beautifully orchestrating the magic. And that we don't get it when we don't get in the way, when we stop, are silent, and allow that cosmic intelligence, and we align with it without the busyness that we carry. When we're too busy, we're not aligning. So even if it's there, we're too frantic, right? But if we're aligning with that cosmic intelligence, which is the aloha of Hawaii, and we're not in the way of it, we're flowing with it, then it just orchestrates everything with such beauty and such perfection, because not only had you decided that day that you were going to be quiet, I normally spend Sundays, which is the day we met, at Honolulu. And that day, I suddenly decided to go to Hapuna instead of Honolulu. And I suddenly decided to do my meditation in the middle of the beach instead of in a little corner where nobody would see me. So what is it that is making me, through this body, do that, and you do that, and we do it at the perfect timing, in the perfect way, so that this relationship can be created and we can connect and we can manifest the beauty that we have since then? Is that divine aloha, divine love, divine intelligence that goes through those who are aligning, who are taking the stillness, who are being. So this cosmic love, cosmic intelligence is able to manifest through those who are being. And then these miraculous, magical, beautiful encounters happening. And why does that happen? Because life just wants that. Life wants to share, life wants to grow, life wants to experience joy. So for us to meet in that way, so much joy and so much can come from that encounter. So of course it needs to happen. So to me, those synchronistic encounters happen, again, going back to that, when we are out of the busy way, when we're flowing and aligning with nature, with our hearts, and with the cosmic intelligence that permeates everything.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, that is the definition of wealth beyond money. Is you know, in this day and age, in order to manifest money, you can't just sit by yourself and manifest money. You've got to channel the energy that is you and do something with it that's bringing service to other people. That's you have to contribute in some way. And to me, someone might say, well, going to Hawaii and being still, you know, how is that serving anyone? It's like, it's serving you. You're serving you. You're somebody. You're serving you. And then reconnecting to yourself and bringing it back to your children, bringing it back to your team, bringing it back to your company, bringing it back to your community. Just your presence is a blessing on everyone that comes across your unique energy, your unique mana. And you know, I always like to remind people, especially, you know, when you're working with someone who's, you know, beating themselves up, maybe they feel like they made some mistakes or they're not good enough or they can't do something. And, you know, they'll say like, you know, I'm not, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. And I always ask like, well, compared to what? Which usually leaves people stuck. And I say, well, you have a mom, but she's not you. She wasn't sitting there on the first day of school, and she wasn't the one walking across that stage at graduation. That was your experience. And you may have a daughter, and she might want to wear your high heels and your jewelry and may look exactly like you, but she's not you. She's on her own trip down the yellow brick road. And you slowly start to realize that each and every one of us is a once in human history experience that's never existed before and will never exist again. Therefore, there can't possibly be anything wrong with you. And I think what you do, helping people to be still and just be, a lot of times what they're connecting with is that realization that there isn't anything wrong other than the story I'm telling myself. And to me, that's why the world needs more of your wealth beyond money. And that's really what it is. So that's wealth beyond money talk. Is that? And I just I'm grateful for you taking the time to have this conversation because I think A lot of people need to hear your unique wisdom, and they need to experience it. They need to get to Kohala and see, hear, and feel this aloha that we keep talking about. And I don't think there's anybody better to be their tour guide than you.